any bottle of wine in the wine store, but maybe you love California, so you buy California. Or maybe you went to Italy, so you love to have Italian wine. You're buying a story. And if you can tell stories, and you can identify stories which are compelling to others, and you can sharpen stories, you can be in business. If you, and since most jobs are in businesses of one sort or another, I think that that's there. The other thing I would say is learning and acquiring new knowledge in a world where most people will have 9 or 10 different careers by the time they end up somewhere, you know, as I would say, where I'm at the Hebrew Home for the Aged. You know, you need to be able to learn and acquire new skills and find new ways to earn a living. And I think journalists are extremely well positioned to do that. And then finally, I would say, which I'll echo what everyone else here has said, which is, I don't think in today's day, I think journalists are incredibly uncreative about thinking about what they could be next. Everybody is thinking about what they could be next. Everybody. Unless maybe, you know, I guess maybe the Supreme Court justice, they got a really good gig and they go, they come, and it's like, you know, whatever, they can do whatever they want. But I mean, most of us are reinventing ourselves all the time now. And so don't sort of think, well, the only thing I can do is this, or the only thing I can do is that, or I'm only qualified to do this, that, and the other. Short of performing surgery and running very complicated machinery, which none of you should do, I think that you could do pretty much anything that you want to do with the relentless logic and energy of a journalist.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah, adaptability. Amen to that.
Amen.
Adaptability. You know, they throw you into the tornado and you write a story or film a story, right?
So with
Build a
that,
job you want to have.
if someone has a question, we would advise, this is a room full of journalists, I assume someone has a question.
Please,
We'll attempt to answer them.
Former journalists.
And former.
Okay.
All right. Mick Jagger. Okay, I'm 50 years out of journalism school, class of 66, so I've got to the point. I guess I'm not afraid to ask questions that I might have been afraid to ask before. I started in journalism out of school, and I ended up 7 or 8 years later in public relations. And, you know, at the time, and even still today, I heard it from the panelists, some people would consider that I went to the dark side, and, you know, some guilt associated with that. You know, I don't consider that. I want to get to my question, sorry. The question is, does the journalism school currently offer any courses in public relations? Because they didn't when I was here, that I remember. And if not, why not? Because I think public relations is an honorable profession. We add value. We get information in a very skilled way out to people who need that information about products, about services, about companies. It's nothing to be ashamed of, and it's actually a good life. So,
I don't have to have classes here, but I could tell that if they don't, they should, because the problem with public relations, to me, the perception that I had was that there are too many bad ones out there. And people that have no context don't know how to create contacts and rapport with journalists, and don't understand trust, don't understand that we just don't jump on anything like that and send me a sample story. I'm not interested, you're not gonna buy me a freaking sample, you know? So I think if they talk to me like a journalist, I would buy their stories more, and I think it's an important skill. A great public relations person that understands a journalist's mind, it has a fantastic future. So to be able to understand how a journalist will operate, and it takes one to understand one, so if they don't have a course, they should.
Jesse, you're the most recent graduate. There was nothing in your,
No, and I think there's, do you want somebody on staff to address?
No, I'm a current student and they don't have any PR.
Okay, so then the answer is
No.
they do not.
They do not.
Okay.
Well, I suggest
We'll send them an email.
consider it.
a lot of your graduates are going to end up.
NPR, yeah.
Well, I mean, we hire most of the people that we, Human Rights Watch, most of the people in our communications department division are former journalists. And actually, a lot of the human rights researchers are also former journalists. So I think that's what ends up happening, of course.
My name is Richard Wexler. I've only been out of the school for 40 years. I have both a question and a shameless plug. The shameless plug is because my wife, Celia Wexler, wrote a book called Out of the News, Former Journalists Discuss a Profession in
It's
Crisis.
relevant for her.
Why isn't she here?
What? Yes, she certainly is. Including a couple of graduates talking about what they found. And I think one of the themes in the book is that they found a lot of good in their own lives, but I think the profession lost a lot by their absence. And my question is, what do you think the profession of journalism has lost from your absence?
A great deal.
Crying right now. They lost a troublemaker. Yeah, right? Heart.
Oh.
Whoa, that was good.
I do not.
I could say diversity, and not as the only brown person in the room sometimes, and many times as the only woman in that specific conversation, but that global, like I'm not just Latina, I'm someone who had to go through a bunch of languages and a bunch of countries, and I just see the world a different way. When you say immigrant, I don't see a Mexican. When you say the migration crisis, I don't necessarily think of Greece. That's important right now, but I know of other places that are going through that. So that global perspective of the world, I know that went down significantly when myself and a couple other people left. And that was not replaced.
To try to answer the question seriously in my own case, I think the thing about me was that I actually didn't even occur to me to be a journalist until I was about 25 or 26. I'd been doing other things. I didn't grow up in a journalistic family. So one of the things that I did find when I went into journalism was that that a lot of people decided they wanted to be a journalist when they were 15 and they read All the President's Men or whatever, and they were all wrapped up in it. And there was some limitation in a way. I thought one of the things that I did bring to it was that I hadn't spent my entire life wanting to. I'd been a consumer of news long before I was a producer of it, and I think that was helpful. I don't know whether that, I don't know that America lost a great journalist or anything, but at least I did think I brought that to the mix.
Just before I drop the mic, I do want to respond to the previous questioner. I hope Columbia does not ever have a PA course in public relations per se. I think public relations, whether it is good or bad, frankly depends on for whom you are doing it. You're doing it for Human Rights Watch, terrific. You're doing it for a tobacco company or Exxon, not so much.
All right.
Moral theology. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Raj.
Sounds like a J schooler.
I graduated from the J School 5 years ago. Edward, you had mentioned before that there is an importance in acquiring other skills while you're working as a journalist before you create version of yourself 2.0. Curious as to whether any of the four of you did do any other courses or schooling after the J School, and if not, if you felt like it would have been valuable for you.
Coding. I'm not an engineer, for God's sake, I cannot build the next video game, but I was sick and tired of being afraid of it. Because I look in your eyes and I see when I say coding, I see technology, go like, that's not my thing, it's the kids, No, I don't care how old you are, you should not be afraid of it, you should understand it. There's something called artificial intelligence that's out there right now, and it's going to shake the world while you're still alive, so you should get on it. So run to technology, not from it, whatever area of expertise it's the most appealing to you, develop one area of expertise in technology at least.
I think because of our age, and we didn't grow up in a digital age, the things that I've done are really get up to speed, from the days when we just used computers to copy edit, in '77, to building websites, and everything that's going on now. So I try to keep up with that, and I do teach myself different skills with that, or ask people to teach me. So I still do that.
I mean, I would have loved to. There are a bunch of stuff that I would have loved to do, but I just got too old and too married and too fatherly to I just didn't have the, there just wasn't time to do it. But I think if you can, anything.
Well, I always taught, and I think that's been helpful for me. I think that was something I could always do when I wasn't like in between freelance gigs, or I did adjunct work here. I kind of did whatever interested me. So taught and learning languages, of course, is hugely helpful.
That's true.
And meeting people.
Oh, and if you like business, go to the business school. I don't know if they still have that cross courses. I used to look at my colleagues from 06 that would go to the business school. I'm like, why would you do that to yourself? We just went to hell and now you're gonna go to business school? Do it. I regret not doing it. Do it.
One more thing is grants. I think in working in public radio, that was really important. So looking at grants and looking at monies out there, developing a skill in getting grants and prizes and whatever you can do to keep doing what you really want to do.
But just to go back, meeting people, right? You have a license as a journalist to meet folks, and some really powerful people will actually pick up the phone and talk to you. Just meet as many people as you possibly can. Don't compromise your ethics, but keep the phone numbers.
Next time I see you, I want 1,000 people on LinkedIn, okay?
Deal. Thank you.
It's kind of a similar question, but you talked about how you have sort of a knowledge of trends, kind of like a crystal ball. So journalism has changed so much. I mean, I graduated 26 years ago, and I really can't make so much money doing storytelling because Reuters pays $100 a story, for example. So I'm doing all these things, playing music.
There's 100 tech companies that would hire you tomorrow because they can tell their own stories.
Oh, well, give me the list. So the question is, how do we adapt and succeed in this new world? Because let's face it, it's not the way it was 26 years ago. It's totally changed, and we do have to be more diverse and try different things.
Are you asking about adapting and continuing to be a journalist, or are you asking about adapting into something else?
I would love to continue being a journalist, but it's not paying.
Right. So you're asking about doing other things.
Right, and within the same.
Well, I mean, I would
continue using those skills that you're talking about.
Well, I mean, I would say again, the world is filled with people who cannot, for the life of them, figure out what they actually are and how to talk about it. And the world is also anything that you decide you want to do. If you get passionate about something, right? You can actually sell it. You can sell anything. Not in a. I don't mean that in a phony way, or in a way where you're making stuff up, or giving people something that they don't want. But you can go into a world, an area, and you can sharpen your thoughts, and you can figure out what the story is, and you can actually sell it. And I think that is, at the end of the day, what most people do.
I'm going to give a reverse example. It's kind of